This week on the podcast, I caught up with Ursula Adams, an amazing ultra runner and my housemate here on the Gold Coast. Well, technically we live in Tweed Heads, but we spend the majority of our time running together on the Gold Coast Esplanade or on the trails. One of the things I greatly admire about Ursh is, despite deep adversity with a history of domestic violence, she always sees the best in people and treats them with kindness. Through her work as a social worker and passion for running, hosting a female run club called the Fearless Femmes, she is driven to help others however she can. Her journey from not running at all just a few years ago through to recently running her first 100-mile ultra marathon at Mt Kosioscko is one that you'll find inspiring and encouraging. I hope you enjoy our conversation, and through hearing her story, you think she's inspired me to take on something new and to level up in my own life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the First 42K podcast, and today I'm very excited because I'm joined by my housemate Ursula Adams. How are you going, Ursh?
Oh, look, I've had a big day, but I'm here, Shawnee. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. This is actually our second podcast.
It is. It kind of feels like a little bit of deja vu, but for some reason I'm feeling way more nervous this time. Second time round, I'm like, oh, God.
No, you'll be fine. It was a great conversation last time, but unfortunately, I dropped my hard drive. We then lost it. So it's a terrible mistake to make. But you know what? It's happened early into my podcasting journey. I was shattered to lose the vision of that. I also lost the vision of Jai's podcast, and it's been a tough time for me navigating through that. But you know what? If losing a podcast is the worst thing that happens, well, you know, I think I'm doing okay. So I've learned from it. You're back. I'm stoked you're in the studio and we can have a conversation. So firstly, I think to give a little bit of context to other people. So we met back in, I want to say maybe August or September of 2022. I moved to the Gold Coast in July of 2022, and we were doing a level 2 recreational running coaching course with Athletics Australia. And we both had the goal, ambition of becoming a running coach, level 1 already, going into level 2. And then, as you do in those sorts of things, at the start, it's like who lives where, introduce yourself to others. And you were in Tweed and I was in Currumbin at the time. We then went for a run, which somehow then blossomed into me living with you.
Yep.
And it's been unreal. So I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to live with you and to stay on the Gold Coast a little bit longer when my mate Joshy moved back into his apartment that I was subletting. So what's it been like living with me? What do you think of my diet?
How much do you want me to comment on here, Shawnee? No, it's a beautiful relationship you and I have at home. Your diet, should I comment on that? You have a very big love of your eggs. Eggs and chalky milk seem to be Shawnee's fondness.
6 eggs a day, half a litre of chalky milk, can't go wrong. Builds strong muscles, I believe.
Something like that. But no, you're a good roomie. I love having you. It's been, I'm going to be really sad to see you go next week. It's been great having you at home. It's really been good for me as well. And yeah, I hope you feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved it. I moved in November. We're now in the start of March, and I'm moving back to Melbourne next week. So that's going to be vital for me in my preparation towards next year's Run Around Australia. Can't wait to share more about that soon, the charity that I'm supporting with that big run. But it is an exciting time for me. Get home with all my family and all of my experts around me, like my physio and my podiatrist and so on. So yeah, it is sad to be leaving Tweed, leaving Currumbin, leaving many mates up here on the Gold Coast, but at the same time, I think that is what's required for me to get to that level next year. So, Ursh, I want to dive into your story and unpack it all, but we're going to start with you as a young girl. Were you always a runner?
No, not at all. I mean, when I was young, I certainly ran. I did a little bit of little athletics, and it's funny because I asked my mum not long ago, I said, why the heck did I stop running? Like, I remember doing little A's and I loved it on a Saturday morning. This was back in Sydney, and I remember having a coach and having some really good friends, and all of a sudden it just stopped. And then I don't remember being a runner at all up until then, only just a couple of years ago. So have not been a runner at all. more so recently. And yeah, prior to that, I've probably been in a number of different sports, have lived overseas in Canada, so been a snowboarder, been a motorbike rider, been a rock climber, mountain bike rider, hiker, whole lot of other outdoor sports, but never a runner, only up until, recently.
Well, just a real adventurer. So that's why I'm not surprised you're a trail runner, not a road runner.
Totally. Yep, get me on trails any day. Not that I don't like road running. I can see the benefit of it, but I certainly would much prefer to be out on trails and in nature any day as opposed to on road. Yeah,
just time to disconnect and be out there. Is that what it is more for you, or just the true adventure in being in beautiful places?
Yeah, I think it's just the connection with being outside in nature. I think being out in the bush and away from cars and away from, houses and things like that, getting out in nature for me is a good disconnect from everything. And I guess even going back to hiking and things like that, when I'd hike, I loved actually just not even having access to a phone or not having, good phone reception. So it's a nice way to just switch off and just be outside, outdoors. Yeah,
absolutely. And now you've actually taken that passion from just yourself and you've started the Fearless Femmes. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, so my Fearless Femmes ladies run group is an eclectic bunch of women who are absolutely fantastic. They are super supportive of one another and of myself. And I guess, how that came about was last year was going through a bit of a tough time with a breakup, and I was feeling really disconnected from running because I didn't really know anyone. So I guess I had thought to create this women's run group, and I put a post out there on Gold Coast Trail Runners. And I guess I just put my feelers out there and thought, I'm going to take a chance. I want some women to run with, and I'm going to see whether I can create this women's run group. And so I put that post out there, and funnily enough, then a bunch of women were like, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. So from then, things have grown. And look, it's not a huge bunch of women, but we get out there every Thursday morning in the Currumbin Border Trail and absolutely have the best time. It's super chatty. We're always laughing, having fun. Like, it's a great bunch of women.
Yeah, I love that. I think like when you get home, you tell me about it. I can see how much it lights you up, and I think it's more so just being supportive of everyone coming together. One thing you always say to me is like, it's not about the pace that anyone runs. It's just about having a good time.
Yep, absolutely. That's one thing that I don't want to lose from running is when things become more of a chore than just having fun. Like, I want to make sure that with my running, it's that I'm always having fun. If I'm not doing that, then I need to reconsider where I'm at and what's going on for me. Yeah,
nice. So over the last couple of years, is it fair to say just really last 2-3 years you've got back into your running?
2021, it would have been when I started running. So
when you started running. So 2021. We've ticked off some big races over the past couple of years, including your first 100-mile race at Mt Kosioscko just last year. You've also done the Brisbane Trail Ultra 110-kilometre race. And you even skipped over your first marathon to go from a half marathon to 50 as your first ultra. Is that right?
Yep. So that's kind of my style. I like to jump to big things to begin with, and if I set myself a goal, I'm damn well going to achieve it. So, I didn't even think about running a marathon, and it was basically just it was around COVID, so probably June or something, July of COVID in 21. And literally it was, I was struggling like to do my regular sports and was like, okay, what am I going to sign up for? And what race came about was Coastal High 50. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sign up for a 50K. And I essentially had never even run a marathon ever in my life. And prior to that, I'd really only run maybe max 10K. So I think then leading up on the weekends, I was like, all right, I better better do a run and see whether I can do a half marathon
Do
even.
a little bit of training.
So I essentially just like got out there and was like, all right, yep, stoked. I can do a half marathon, so surely I can do double that and
Double that and a bit more.
yeah, and a little bit more. And then if I can't, I'll just hike it because I know how to hike, and surely my legs will just keep carrying me to the finish line, I guess.
I like
So
that.
that's how it went down.
I think sometimes it's like that naivety is so special, you know, because you don't really know what you're in for. So you're just like, let's give it a go. It's like,
Totally.
and that's so powerful. It's something that I had that conversation recently with Sam Gash on the podcast. Is like, I was 20 when I reached out to her and said, I want to run around Australia. I didn't know what that was going to involve, but she was very similar in her, you know, ambitions of wanting to become an ultra runner. You know, it was just, something that she's like, this is what I'm going to do. I don't know how, but I'm going to sign up to a 250K race. And next minute that became her lifestyle. So I love that. I think, you know, 50K, you threw yourself in the deep end, then that's evolved into 110K and then 160K. And I think you're just getting started with your running.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I've definitely got started and maybe gone full tilt pretty early on, which, you know, if I was coaching anyone, I probably would not be advising them to follow in my footsteps. What works for one person doesn't work for the next.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I think, you know, well, you've told me, so you did your 50K race, then it was an 80K race next, is that right?
Yep. So I went from, doing 50K to then jumping on to an 80K, then jumping on board to 100K, then another 100K, then the miler.
Yeah.
All in the space of, we're probably talking a year and a half at max.
Yeah, okay. But it's still like, you know, it's not as if you're going from 50 to 100 miles. So I think, you know, it's what was your, from when you started, when you signed up, if you can remember, from when you signed up from that, signed up for the Coastal High 50 and you went out and did that half marathon, what was your time frame from signing up to actually getting started with the event?
Yeah, so, I mean, I probably only had a few months under my belt before I did the 50K, and then I would have had like maybe another 3 months in between before the 80K, and then again probably another 3 or 4 months in between then the 100. So I guess my training weeks probably weren't, I definitely wasn't maybe building Ks a huge amount. So, you know, for me, I think I sit on maybe a lower amount of Ks and am capable of getting through those bigger events with maybe, I'm going to say minimal, weekly Ks, which just works for me. So,
it's not that small though. Like, what are you running, 60 kilometre weeks normally?
Yeah, look, maybe 60 Ks. Yeah. But yeah, for some of those, I mean, leading up to the miler, I certainly wasn't doing big Ks at all.
Well, leading up to Cairns to Melbourne, I was running 80 to 100 kilometre weeks. So I think, you know, what works for one person isn't, as you touched on before, it's not the be all end all. I know some runners out there would say that's crazy. You should have been doing 100-mile weeks or 120-mile weeks, and that's not, you know, that didn't work for me, and it clearly didn't work for you. You've got to do what feels right, and for me, it's always been quality. So looking at strength training, looking at, you know, intensity, like sessions like hill sprints and intervals and that sort of thing, to ultimately build a really strong body where I'm peaking for the event. I'm not then cooking myself. And it's something that you and I talk about regularly, like better to go in underprepared sometimes than overcooked.
Yep, I have learnt this big lesson leading up to UTK. So Cosi Miler, I guess I had an injury in October of last year, went to the Blueies, ran a short race. Probably short distances are not my forte. They go a little bit faster than what I like to go. So anyway, got a bit caught up there, had a little bit of a slip, rolled my ankle, you know, had a massive sprain. So that injury really set me back leading up to Cosi. So I had a heap of time off, like a heap of downtime to really do some rehab work, get in the gym, do my strength work, even just do like a bit of Pilates and a bit of yoga. So I found that was really important. I got in the pool as well, did heaps of rehab work in the pool, just because I couldn't then run those distances that I was running before. So something that I've learnt leading up to that is undertrained is 100 times better than overcooked. Even though so many people are chasing those kilometres and think that you need to do those Ks every week leading up to a big event, it's not true. And, it depends what you're chasing. If you're chasing times, if you're, trying to place, you don't necessarily know what the outcome's going to be anyway. So the more Ks you push, that's not necessarily going to be the best way to go. I think, be kind to your body and listen to your body and listen to everything that's happening in terms of fatigue and what nutrition you're putting in your body. But definitely leading up to that, like I really did, it was quite a weird set of training leading up to Kosy. If you were to look at my Strava and see what I'd done, it was like a weird backwards taper that was a month prior. I literally maybe did 20 Ks in the week and then started increasing maybe 2 weeks before the event. So, looking at that, you go, wow, how then has someone run 100 miles? And I don't really even know how I've done it myself.
Well, you didn't just run 100 miles. You went sub 23 hours in a tough race, which is awesome. I remember we were probably like 4 or 5 days out from the event at Kosy, and we went for just like, you're in your taper periods. So I think we went for a 12 or 15K run on the border track, and we're just having a conversation. You're running up the hill, just like continuing to talk to me. I'm fully out of breath. I can't speak. And you're just cruising up there. So I thought, well, might not have been ideal preparation, but you're going to go in absolutely ready if you are just cruising up these hills.
Oh, that's my local trail, so I love it, and you're a little bit worried about the snakes and I'm there cacking myself.
Yeah, not a massive fan of long grass and running through it when it's up to my hips, but that's all right. It's character building stuff, hey?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that Kosy miler a little bit more. You fundraise for the White Ribbon Foundation, who support women who've suffered from domestic violence, and they're huge in the education space as well. I know it's been a part of your journey, domestic violence, and whilst a sensitive topic, I think, I'm really grateful for you to jump on and share a little bit about it and why supporting this cause was so important to you.
Yeah, look, Shawnee, I mean, like I said, I don't know whether I spoke much about how with my Fearless Femmes. So at that time I had gone through a breakup, and look, that was an incredibly difficult time for me. I, like I said, felt disconnected from the run community, had only run with the person that I'd previously been in a relationship with. So I felt like I didn't know many people to go out and run with. And to bring myself out of that dark place when I wasn't feeling really good after a not so good relationship, had then decided, what, I've got to find some people to run with, and I've got to get through this. So setting myself a goal, and I guess with that goal, I wanted to raise awareness for domestic violence, and something that I guess I've experienced in different ways, and domestic violence comes in all forms. People might think it's just physical abuse, and it's not. Domestic violence can come in all sorts of different ways, shapes or forms. And, part of that, my experience was verbal, and had experienced some verbal abuse at times, which was significantly traumatising for me. And then to feel all of that amongst having a really difficult job as a social worker and having to work with clients who have experienced domestic violence, and children who come from families that suffer domestic violence on a daily basis, that was a cause to me that I was like, I'm going to run for this reason. I'm not just doing this run to run 100 miles for myself. I am going to talk about this stuff. I'm going to get the word out there, and I'm going to raise awareness for this cause, And this is not an easy thing for me to talk about, because, even though these things happened long ago, they still have an impact on you. They still have an impact on you, sometimes on a daily basis, sometimes you're triggered in certain ways. Yeah. And I can certainly say there are many triggers for me still out there, and that's for me to work on and try and increase my ability to be able to manage those things and know, that I do feel safe and I don't feel threatened by anyone anymore, and I will never get into a relationship ever like that again. So that was a big deal for me doing that fundraising, even though that it took a decent part of me to, I guess, talk about that subject. It took a lot of energy from me to even open up and talk about a couple of those things, because there's always this big fear, is somebody going to, is someone going to question my integrity? Is someone going to call me out? Is someone going to, ask me more questions that I don't know the answer to or I can't respond to? I only know what my experience consisted of and how that impacted me emotionally, physically, and in all sorts of other ways. So, I found I put my energy into that, and even though, like I said, leading up, I had that injury, I was so torn thinking I'm not going to be able to run this thing, and I set out to achieve this goal, and I was telling people that I'm running for a reason. I am running to raise awareness for other people, other women, other, maybe there's men out there who have experienced this stuff as well, but I'm running to be able to talk about this stuff and say that this stuff is not okay. We need to have more respectful relationships out there, and people need to be able to manage their emotions in a way without verbal abuse and without violence, and treat each other with respect. So that for me was a huge part of that journey leading up to Kosi and what I wanted to promote in terms of that run. So at the end there, me getting to the start line was just the biggest thing, and I really didn't care whether I reached the finish line. It didn't matter to me. By that point, I was like, you know what? I have done the best job I can do. If I don't make it to the end, it doesn't matter. I have still raised awareness. I've still talked about this issue. I've put it out there, and I know what my truth is. And so at the end of the day, I not just made it to the finish line, but then I also incredibly raised $5,000 for White Ribbon Foundation, and they are a foundation out there who I think do some really bloody good things for people in domestic violence relationships. They raise awareness and talk about these things. They educate men about respectful relationships. So one of their focuses is getting men involved in their programs and, trying to create an awareness around, okay, if you can't manage conflict within your relationship and you're finding that you have these attitudes or behaviours or perceptions about your partner, this needs to change. These are things that have been maybe not taught to us at a young age. So I think the work that White Ribbon does out there is absolutely incredible, and they are a charity out there that I still hold close to my heart, and I'm pretty damn proud of my efforts for being able to do that. So,
well, I'm proud of you too, and I know that everyone who listened to that just then would be proud of your journey, because it is very tough, and I feel like it's even hard for me to talk to you about it because I don't quite understand it to that level. I never will, but at the same time, I think I really appreciate your vulnerability in sharing it, and also I know that it will help others through doing so. So what was I guess from and this is something that I believe is, you get to a point where you obviously worked so hard on yourself. You were doing so much work trying to push through this tough time to then get to a point where you're like, I feel capable of signing up for a 100-mile race. Because I think when you're going through tough times, when you're going through shit, it is really hard to look positively at the future and to set big goals, big ambitions. Often we need things to be going, in a little bit better position, or we just need to have worked through it a little bit more. There must have been, a period where you had to work really hard. And obviously, as you touched on, the Fearless Femmes played a big role in getting you sort of that support and back on track.
Absolutely. That disconnection that I felt at that time, to then have other women who were supporting me in my now running journey, and to be able to say, hey, you can do this, was so critical at that time when I was in a place where I didn't feel like I could pick myself up, that I that I maybe couldn't come out of this, and how was I going to be this resilient person that I know I am, and I know I'm capable of these things. But at a time where, you know, you're trying to find yourself and you're trying to make connections, and you don't know who your people are. So finding that tribe of women was so damn important to me. So I'm so forever grateful for all of the tips and all of the supports that those women have provided me leading up to then and consistently today. And then even from that, you know, the other women, or not just women, other men that I have met in the community that have supported me in that journey as well. I know I can safely say there's heaps of people from afar in other states who, even that I met through the athletics coaching course with you, that have really supported me throughout that journey too. So I am just forever grateful for being able to, I guess, make these connections and find that tribe of people to connect with. It's just so good.
Well, I think it also comes from, as we've talked about, that vulnerability in being able to speak up. You've said here on this podcast, it's not an easy thing to talk about. It's a really hard thing to talk about, but you do it anyway because you believe in it. And I think that that's really, really beautiful. And also, you know, that is powerful. Like, that truly will help people because, you know, it is a tough conversation, but it's one that needs to be had. And I think, you know, it's such a great effort to, as you said, make it to the start line. You told all these people it wasn't even about how you executed the race, and you did execute it so well, which is awesome because I know how much passion you would have had in running for your cause on that day. But to even raise $5,000, it's hard fundraising out there. I think there's so many people doing so many things and so many charities, and that's an extraordinary effort as well. So yeah, I'm super, super glad to hear how vital these women have been and how supportive that Fearless Femmes is. As I said, like, when you do come home on a Thursday morning or we have a conversation, it's like, you know, I really do see that. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And for any women on the Gold Coast who are looking for that safe community, definitely message Ursh, get amongst it, because it's a beautiful thing where you're targeting your physical, mental, social health all at once. So if people do want to get in touch with you, where can they connect with you? Where can they message you?
Yep, so I'm on the socials, not so great at the socials though. I will say I'm a little bit old and jaded. I don't like being glued to the phone, but look, you can find me under Ursh, and then my little Fearless Femmes page comes with that. But yeah, just flick me a message on there or via Facebook and I'll get back to you. Yeah. But yeah, would love to. I really I have a passion for trying to grow women in the trail running community. So any runners women that haven't tried trail running, like, feel free to reach out. You know, it's not that far to get into the trails, but I know that can be nervous for some women, and especially around the safety sort of stuff. Like, that is something that I'm big about as well, ensuring that women feel safe on the trails, that there is that community of women that can support you and tell you all the tips of the trade that you don't know. If you've come from road running, you have no idea of what trails are like, and, you know, it could be that fear of getting lost, it could be fear of snakes, it could be fear of whatever else is out there.
Please don't talk about snakes.
So yeah, just feel free to reach out and connect.
Yeah, I love that. And you've got some really exciting news later this year. So the CCC 100K, talk to us about that. That's massive.
Oh, look, like, if you had told me even, I don't know, a year ago that I was going to run a 100-miler and then I was going to put my hat in the ring for CCC and, get into that, I cannot believe that this has come around. Like, last year for me just came with the best opportunities and, in running, that by me going into doing Cosi and then being at the Blueies, I had a couple of those little lotto tickets that I got to put in the ballot, and I really didn't even think anything of it. I just thought, you know what, it'd be absolutely incredible if I could run across Mont Blanc. I've heard of this race. All of the trail runners seem to know about it, so it must be pretty bloody good. I want to go there. And I've never been to Europe. I've done heaps of other travel. I've lived in Canada. I've travelled across America. Like, I've done all these other wild things, but never done Europe. So anyway, put my hat in the ring, and next minute, January rolls around this year, and here we are. I get this little email in my inbox saying, congratulations, you have won a spot in CCC. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to Europe, guys. So I'm absolutely rapt that I've been able to get into that.
That's unreal. People wait, what did you say, like 10, 15 years, their name in the ballot sometimes?
Look, I know that people put their name in the ballot year after year and don't get a spot. And I'm really sad that my friend Steve, shout out to Steve, buddy, I'm so bummed that you are not coming with me because we had an idea that we were going together. And unfortunately, Steve didn't get in this year. I was hoping he'd even get in on the wait list, but someone has not given their spot to him. So anyway, there's some other people that I know up Brisbane way who are going to be over there. So I'm super stoked to be able to be on that journey, and shout out to my other buddy, Paddy. He's going to be out there with me. So nice. I'll be cheering him on as well.
Well, Steve can live through you this year and hopefully he gets in next time.
That's it. Yep.
No, it's going to be an awesome race. I can't wait to follow it. I think, I'm so stoked to hear your journey and where you've been able to get yourself to. Obviously, the advocacy that you're doing for domestic violence, I think it's incredible. As we said, it takes so much courage, but you're putting yourself out there, even when it doesn't feel good, because you believe in it and you want to help others and educate others as well. So, Ursh, it's been a massive honour having you on. I want to ask you one last question. If you had a message for the world, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. Look.
It's a tough question, I know.
One message for the world. I think just if we're going on the track of domestic violence, I think for me it would be to treat each other respectfully. So whatever relationship, whatever friendship, whatever connection you have with a person, I think just remember, no matter what the insecurities are that you might be feeling and going through at that time, remember the way that you treat somebody else can really sit with them for a long time. So treat each other respectfully and with kindness. Don't be afraid to acknowledge how you're feeling, even if it is that you're feeling fear or, feeling insecure about something. I think the main thing is that we just are compassionate to each other and ourselves as well. I think, the world would be an absolutely better place if more people treated each other like that. We're going to have a pretty peaceful world, so that's what I would shout out to.
I love that message. I think it's a hard question to answer on the spot, no doubt, but I think it's a very powerful message and one that is simple, but it's definitely something that we all need to keep in mind, that our actions and the words that we say, they can have a big impact on someone else. So, Ursh, I'm incredibly grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for, as I said, you having me live at your house for a little while, being your housemate, and staying on the Gold Coast that little bit longer, riding it out to AFL season just so I can get back now in Melbourne. But yeah, really grateful for your friendship. I think can't wait to catch up for many runs in the future going forward. Can't wait to watch CCC. Keep getting after it. Keep doing the great things that you're doing and making the world a better place. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Shawnee.
We hope that you love the podcast, and if you did, please leave a review and share it with others. Did you know that you can train with us at First 42K for as little as $9.95 per week? If you're looking to fall in love with running and achieve your first 5K, 10K, a half marathon or marathon, unlock your 1 week free trial at first42k.com.au. I'd like to thank our partners at HGG Performance for providing the podcast space. HGG Performance manufactures strength and rehabilitation equipment, which is hugely beneficial for runners looking to improve performance and prevent injury. Use the code FIRST42K for 10% off their products. Until next time, live happy and run strong.